So what's the best way to learn and memorize the melodies to jazz standards? Well, today I'm going to just walk you through me learning the melody to a jazz standard I actually don't know and show you my exact process. Let's do this. Okay, so the jazz standard melody I'm going to learn today is called Groovin' High by Dizzy Gillespie, and this is a classic Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker tune that they've done together. I'm aware of the tune, I've listened to it, I've heard it obviously, but I actually don't know how to play it. So literally this is gonna be completely raw, me going through the process of learning this jazz standard. Now, before we do this though, of course, I want to talk to you about the preparation I've already done ahead of time. And that has to do with what I call my list process for learning jazz standards. So that stands for listen, internalize, sing, and transfer. And so the part that I'm gonna be doing in today's video is the last step, the T, the transfer part, and show you how to do that. But already I've done the listening, internalizing, and singing process. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I'll leave a link in the description or the show notes to my Learn Jazz Standards, the Smart Way free guide. It really goes into that into detail, but let's move on to the transfer phase. So first, while it's not mandatory, I think it can be really helpful to have the chord chart up in front of you. And this just helps me see what I'm actually doing, help me feel like I can organize this melody. And the way I like to start is just by looking at the first 4 bars, right? The first 4 bars, it just kind of makes things not quite as stressful where I'm going to be learning something. And as you can see, I'm actually going to be learning this by ear. I don't actually want to read this from sheet music. I just don't think the benefits are really there as far as jazz goes. And it's good for your ear. It's good for memorizing in the long term, which again, is part of what I'm talking about today is how do you memorize a jazz standard? So what I would recommend you do is go ahead and pull up a recording. In this case, I'm going to the original recording of this. And that is with Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. Right now, I just have YouTube pulled up, but you could use Spotify or whatever you happen to use or a slow downer. So let's go ahead and listen to it and start learning it. Okay, so that's actually the intro to the jazz standard. I do think it's very valuable to learn this. However, for the sake of today's video, we're just gonna learn where the A section actually starts, which is coming up right here. So let's listen to the first 4 bars. Okay, so that's the first 4 bars. So now I can already tell right away that this is way too fast for me to actually learn this by ear. I mean, I could do it, but it's gonna be a lot easier if I slow it down. So again, if you have a slow downer, it's a great idea. I'm just using YouTube, and actually on their settings, you can slow down the video. So I'm gonna slow it down to 75%. And I think that's gonna help me grab these notes a little bit better. Let's go ahead and learn the first notes. Okay, so there's a pickup and it goes. Okay, so the first notes are, let me go ahead and check that again just to make sure. Yep, so it starts right here on the B natural. Okay. Let's keep listening to get the rest of the notes. Okay, so listen back again. Intro. Okay, so we repeat that phrase again. So it goes. Okay, easy enough. Let's keep going. Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there because that's a lot of notes about to come up. So let's try to get the first note. Do, do. Okay, so that's the first note right there. It happens to be an E natural. Let's keep listening to the line. Boo doo dee. Okay, so that's the next series of notes there. Let me just listen again to double check on it. Okay. Yeah, so I was right there, so. Okay, those are the next notes. I can hear that. Now, if this takes you longer to do because you're not used to learning things by ear, that's okay too. It really just comes down to trial and error, right? So far we've got. Okay, that's what I've got so far, but let's go ahead and listen back again and get the next batch of notes. Okay, so. So, yep, so that's it. Okay, let's keep listening to see if we can get the rest of the notes. I'll back up just a tiny bit. Okay, so, and then what's the last note there in the phrase? Okay. Okay, so that happens to be a D natural, so, right? So this is all happening in bar 4, by the way, so. Okay, so this is what we have so far. The pickup. Okay. Now again, because I've listened to this so many times, I'm pretty intimately familiar with what it is. So right now, honestly, I'm just working on transferring it to my instrument and getting the muscle memory down. Okay, awesome. So let's keep moving on. All right, so there's a little pickup there. All right, let me try to get that. Let's see, one more time. Yeah, so that was it. That was the pickup into essentially what it sounds like we're gonna hit the phrase again. Right, so we just repeat that part again. So after this part, right? By the way, it's worth mentioning here, because this recording is so old, my guitar and this recording are just never going to be in tune. That's just because it's an old recording, but we'll just bear with it. Like, I can still hear the pitches, and they're not obviously like an entire half step off or anything like that. Okay, so here's the cool thing about grooving high, and I knew this before I even started doing this process, is it repeats itself, just transposing the line. So what it really just did after this part, it took this line that we did before, but it transposed it. So I know that it went to another key, so let me just hear what the first note is, and then I can fill in the blank. Yeah, so as I thought, it's actually a whole step down is where we're going. So we're really repeating the same phrase. Let me just confirm that to make sure there's no other special notes in there. Yeah, so again, I would go through this on your instrument, whatever you happen to play, and try to figure out that transposition. It's a little easier on guitar because you can kind of just patternistically see it. So once I got my muscle memory wrapped around one, I can do another. That's just an advantage of the guitar. Okay, so far we've got... Okay, now let's figure out the pickup to the next section. So it's a little simpler this time. D, D. Okay, so D, D, da, 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 D, da, da, da. I can really hear that really well because I really can hear approach tones really well at this point. So the pickup's a little bit simpler on this one. Okay, so almost like Charlie Parker did that, but I think it's really just, right? That's really what it is. So let's hear where it goes after that. Okay, so again, we're transposing that same line. So let me just figure out what note it starts on. Boo, 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 right? So it's another whole step down. Now again, I can see all of this happening in the chord chart, right? This part goes a whole step down and this part goes a whole step down, right? So I can see that that's actually happening if I'm looking at a chord chart, which can be helpful again, but you don't have to do that. You can always figure out the chords after you learn the melody. So the line's gonna be, right? So far we've got, let's see where the melody goes next. Okay, so let me try one more time to listen to that. Okay, so I think that's it. Again, that's where my ear's taking me because I've heard this so many times. Yeah, so let's go. No. Yeah, so. Ah. Yeah, so sometimes you really have to practice the muscle memory of what you're playing, right? It's not just an automatic thing. It's a little easier for me because I've learned so many melodies and solos and stuff that some of these patterns kind of re-emerge. All right, and I'm almost positive because if we look at the chord chart, right, it actually goes down a whole step here with the F minor 7. So I'm almost positive we're gonna transpose this, but let's go ahead and listen to it just to make sure that's what's happening. Yeah, that's what happens. So, right, so it went. And then let's hear the pickup into the second A section. So it's the same thing as this? Not really, actually, it's a little different. So the pickup's a little different almost every single time. So let's listen to it. I think it's that. Let's try one more time. Whoops. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so at this point, we're repeating the A section again if we're looking at the chord chart, so that's great. Pretty sure here, I know we have a second ending that happens, right? If we look at our chord chart, there's a second ending over here. There's bar 21, so it goes F minor 7, A flat minor 7, D flat 7 to E flat major 7. So something different's going to happen, but what we can be pretty sure of is that the first 12 bars are basically going to be the same thing. But again, it's always worth confirming to make sure that there isn't some missing parts in there. So let's keep listening. Okay, so this is the part right here. This is the second ending that I need to learn, and I can already tell I'm gonna have to go back and practice the different pickups that happen because I wasn't able to do it right there. That's okay, that's part of the process, but let's just get this last 4 bars and then we'll go from there. So one more time to lead into that part. So, and what's the note between there? So it's actually just one note. So I think it's that one. And then what's the part we're going to? Okay. So we went. And I think this part gets transposed because again, if we look at our chord chart, A flat minor 7 to D flat 7. So let's listen to it. Yeah, so. Yeah, so it actually goes a minor third up. So it's just. And then what's the last note? Okay, so. Okay, awesome. So. Okay, so it goes through that little chord progression section. In the jam session changes, it kind of just lands on the E flat major 7, but in the actual arrangement, there's these different chord changes happening. So it's. Oh, one more time. And then Charlie Parker comes in with a pickup and goes for his solo. Okay, so at this point, what I've done is I've successfully transferred the notes to my instrument, but it definitely bears that I need to practice this a little bit to make sure I got it right, make sure all those little pickups that are in there I'm getting. So what I'm gonna do is pause this for 1 second, just practice this for a little bit, and then we're gonna come back and play it with the recording.
A few moments later.
All right, so just got back from practicing, still practicing up to 75%. We'll get to 100% later, but 75% is good for now. So I'll play it along with the recording, and it'll be a little out of tune with recording, but that's okay. So let's start with the intro, and then I'll jump in when the head comes in. Okay, so a few mistakes in there, but again, I would keep practicing this and playing this and the practice session today. Tomorrow, I'll come back to it and review it and keep solidifying it. And then we'll keep playing it and we'll start improvising over it. And repetition really becomes important here when we're talking about really starting to memorize this. But simply by going through this process of learning it by ear, going through this process is really, really going to help me memorize it for the long term. So of course, the next question is, how do we go about memorizing the chords to jazz standards? So I have a video on the screen right now that will go through that process, how to go about memorizing chords to jazz standards. So click on that one right on the screen. If you found this video helpful today, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.